Welcome back. If you're looking to really get under the skin of a topic quickly, you're in the right place.
Exactly. And today we're doing a deep dive using a source you brought in, a personal letter from Swami Anand Mahendra, dated September 1980.
Right, this letter, it gives such a unique window, doesn't it? A really first-hand feel for what must have been a huge moment for the Rajneesh movement.
Absolutely pivotal. It catches the community right on the cusp of a massive change.
Okay, so our mission really is to unpack what this letter tells us about the movement's big transition, how individuals like Mahendra felt, figures like Rajneesh, Gurdjieff, even terms like Merry Englanders, and why Kashmir pops up.
There's a lot packed into it.
So first up, the big picture. Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh leaving for the USA, the Poona Ashram closing down. Now, the letter says September 1980, but often we hear 1981 for the move. What's going on there?
Well, it really underscores that these things don't happen overnight. The letter probably reflects the imminence of it all, the decisions being made, maybe early preparations. The actual final move might have been 81, but the shift was clearly happening in late 1980.
Makes sense. And why the move? It wasn't just a whim.
Oh, definitely not. There were significant tensions building with the Indian government, major tax liability issues were looming, and strategically, they likely saw the U.S. as a better base for international expansion. Pune had become complicated.
Right, complicated. So how did Mahendra himself react? The letter suggests he wasn't exactly thrilled initially.
No, you can sense a real personal disappointment. He talks about his peaceful early retirement being disrupted. It sounds like he saw Pune as his settled future.
And his response is to go to Kashmir.
Yes, for 3 months. It really reads like a need to step back, reflect, maybe process everything that was happening to his path, his community, a personal retreat.
He also draws this really interesting parallel. He says, Bhagwan, like Gurdjieff, will always keep creating devices to wake us up. What's he getting at there?
It shows a deep understanding, I think. He sees a common thread in their teaching styles. Gurdjieff used, well, often quite jarring methods, his fourth way, to shake people out of their complacency.
And Bhagwan.
Bhagwan also used very dynamic, sometimes confrontational techniques, meditations, and counter groups designed to break down conditioning. So Mahendra is seeing that pattern, that sometimes spiritual growth requires these, let's call them shock tactics.
Okay, and what about this phrase, Merry Englanders? Referring to British disciples, presumably.
Presumably, yes. Merry England itself is this sort of nostalgic, idealized vision of England.
So used in the context of the Rajneesh movement, which was quite critical of conventional society. Is it ironic?
It could be a touch of irony, perhaps,
Huh.
or maybe just a simple way to refer to the British contingent, acknowledging their shared background in this very international place. It kind of flags them as a distinct group.
The letter also touches on something quite personal. Teerth Prashanto leaving him after his illness.
Yes, that really brings it down to the human level, doesn't it? It highlights how close these bonds were within the ashram.
And how departures, especially during such a turbulent time and when someone's vulnerable, must have really stung.
Exactly. It reminds us that behind the big movement shifts, there are these individual relationships and feelings, real people, real connections.
Then there's Kashmir itself. He calls it a garden of God. Why Kashmir for his retreat?
Kashmir has this long, long history as a spiritual sanctuary. Its beauty, its perceived serenity, it's drawn seekers for ages. For Mahendra, facing uncertainty, it represented a place for deep introspection.
And he had plans there, meditation, raw food, swimming.
Right, a very conscious effort, it seems, to purify and recenter himself, physically and spiritually, away from the upheaval.
And then the final kicker, his slightly sarcastic mention of returning to Thatcherland and its realities.
Yeah, that contrast is stark, isn't it? Between the ashram life or the planned peace of Kashmir and the economic realities of early 80s Britain under Thatcher. Privatization, unemployment.
It really grounds his experience. He's aware of the world he's temporarily leaving and presumably returning to. A bit of a critique, maybe?
I think so. It highlights the different worlds, the ashram versus what he calls Thatcherland. It shows his awareness of the, let's say, socioeconomic difficulties waiting back home.
So it's amazing, really. Just one letter gives us the snapshot, the movement's huge shift, the very personal impact, the spiritual seeking, even the wider world context.
Precisely. It's a testament to how individual stories illuminate these big historical moments, which, leaves us with a thought. How do these major shifts, societal, spiritual, affect our own individual journeys, our beliefs?
And maybe how much history is hidden in plain sight. Just waiting in personal letters and diaries, offering insights that official accounts might miss entirely, something to think about.